Hi, I'm Rick, and if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I've spent over a decade building a fantasy world called Tumiun. But I am more than just a world builder. I'm an illustrator, a writer, a mapmaker, a portrait artist, and a filmmaker. This video will take you on a chronological journey along my 25 years of making things, from my earliest works to my latest. I'll be sharing with you the most valuable lessons that a lifetime of creativity has taught me. Not rules or commandments, just 10 things I believe every artist should know. My story starts 27 years ago when I was born in a little city called Amsterdam. I grew up with two older brothers whose love of fantasy rubbed off on me. They showed me the Lord of the Rings movies and taught me how to draw dragons. Thanks to them, I've been drawing and dreaming up stories for longer than I can even remember. For this video, I pulled all of my old sketchbooks and drawings out of storage, and tucked away in one of the boxes was this very first sketchbook I ever filled, from when I was around 6 years old. Flipping through it was like opening a time capsule, though it didn't surprise me to see that nothing has really changed. Pages full of knights and archers defending their castles from savage dragons, and on one of the pages, a doodle that might just be the very first map I ever drew. I barely even knew what our real world looked like, but I was already busy inventing my own. On this page, you even see the very first made-up script I ever created, a foreshadowing of things to come. I was always looking for ways to express my imagination, and I wasn't creating because someone told me to, I just couldn't imagine not doing it. And since you're watching this video, odds are the same is or was true for you. When we're young, creativity is almost instinctive. For me, I think it was a way of making sense of all the new and strange things around me. A 6-year-old doesn't fully understand what a castle is yet, but by drawing it, it becomes something tangible. Art is a way of taking ownership of the world we live in, turning the unfamiliar into something familiar. Yet for some reason, many of us stop using this incredible tool as we grow older. But I never stopped. I couldn't even if I wanted to. That tool still helps me almost every single day. I write to make sense of my thoughts, I paint to make sense of my emotions. Art is how I set free the things that won't stop bouncing around in my head, when I just can't seem to find another way of getting them out. But for me, it was never just about processing my thoughts. It was also a way of getting away from them entirely. I think that's why I've always been drawn to fantasy, even when I was younger. Monsters, dragons, dwarven warriors, because the real world often felt too confusing or out of my control. When things around me felt too uncertain, or when I just couldn't find a way of fitting in, I could make a place where I did belong, where I got to decide the rules. All through high school, I filled my notebooks with sketches instead of notes, drawing fantasy characters and creatures of all sorts and all kinds instead of doing homework. If I'm being honest, it felt and still feels almost like an addiction. But for reasons I can't quite understand looking back, I never imagined myself as actually doing something with my art. I was just creating for the hell of it. The idea of one day turning my art into a career was far too daunting. I wasn't good enough for that. I didn't have the skill or the talent. And I was okay with that. There was comfort in knowing that even if I never made any money with my art, it would still be there. An outlet, a way to process the world around me. I'm glad I learned this first lesson young, which is that art has worth, even without a purpose. You don't have to be good at it for it to be meaningful. Creativity is its own reward. The joy of making something is reason enough. So if you've been holding back from creating something because you're afraid you won't be good enough, just do it. Not for success or validation, just because making things is one of the best parts of being human. When I was 15 years old, I bought my very first cheap drawing tablet and I started messing around with digital art in Photoshop. But having an undo button and an unlimited supply of digital paper to screw up on was freeing. I had no idea what I was doing, but every weird, ugly sketch was a lesson learned. I also dabbled in animation a bit, and though I never made anything particularly good, I still learned a lot. Then, at 16 years old, something happened that would come to change my mind about perhaps one day starting a career as an artist. I started building a fantasy world, Tumiun. This project was such a catalyst of inspiration that it slowly turned creativity from a hobby into an obsession. Suddenly I had an endless list of things I wanted to draw, write, and explore. I started filling up sketchbooks like it was nothing, doodling random things every single day. Tumiun became my passion project, and it's the reason I started this YouTube channel. If you haven't already seen them, be sure to check out my other videos to learn more about Tumiun. When I finished school, I was faced with a choice. walk the narrow road that society lays out for us, or carve my own path through the uncharted wilderness of creativity. In the end, I decided to at least try getting into art school. So I got my sketches and doodles together in a portfolio and applied. But I got rejected. Failure is something that every single artist will encounter sooner or later, whether it's a failed job prospect, or not getting into an art school, or just creating a piece which doesn't end up looking anything like what you had in mind. But we need to learn to embrace failure, to use it as a tool, because while a beautifully successful artwork might keep you motivated, it's the bad ones that teach you the most. Failure shows you what not to do. It should motivate you, not just to keep doing what you're doing, but to keep improving upon that. For a long time, I saw failure as a lack of talent, but I now realize it has absolutely nothing to do with that. Just think about how children learn. A baby doesn't just get up one day and start walking. They stumble, they fall over and over again, but each time they get up, they're a little stronger, a little steadier. Eventually, they walk, then they run, and then one day pretty soon, they won't even have to think about it anymore. And the same applies to creativity, or any skill for that matter. You just have to keep doing it, over and over again. The second lesson that I learned was that art isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it. What we see as a failure today might just be a stepping stone to something far greater tomorrow. The only true failure is giving up entirely. And truth be told, for a while there, I almost did give up. Instead of art school, I went to university to study English. I loved linguistics, so it was a decent backup plan. Almost as rewarding as making art. Almost. But between university and work and a social life, I stopped making time for creating things. But then one day, a dear friend asked me a simple question. If money didn't exist, what would you do with your life? The answer came to me immediately. I'd draw, write, build my world, maybe even start a YouTube channel. I imagined myself sketching instead of studying, writing stories instead of reading them. Deep down I knew that I didn't want to spend my life analyzing syntax or doing academic research. I wanted to create. That was the moment I realized that a normal career would never be sustainable for me. Any life other than a creative one would only lead me to one day think about what could have been. A few days later, I was sitting in a lecture hall when, without thinking, I stood up and walked out of the door. I never looked back. I knew what others might think of me, but to be honest, I didn't care. This didn't even really feel like free will. It was as if I needed to do this. I had no choice. But I did have a say in what came next. My plan was simple. Hone my skills, build a stronger portfolio, and make as much art as I possibly could so that I could apply to art school again. I wish I could tell you there's some trick or a secret shortcut to mastering your craft, but there isn't. The only real secret is this. You need to put in the hours, we all do. And the fact is that most of those hours will be spent at a desk, sitting down, bent over your sketchbook or laptop, putting in the work. And if there's one bonus lesson that I want to give to you, it's that we artists need to take good care of our bodies. And no one knows that better than the sponsor of today's video, Flexispot. If you're a creative person like me, or just someone who spends most of their time at a desk, you'll know how vital it is to have a good place to sit. I have stupidly spent the past 10 years sitting in a broken hand-me-down office chair, and my back has definitely been feeling it. It's been falling apart for a while now, and I've been looking for a good ergonomic chair for months. I was overwhelmed by the amount of options, but that's when Flexispot happened to reach out to me. They sent me their C7 Max, and I must say I can't ever go back to any old office chair. It's just so incredibly comfortable and solid, and the adjustability is amazing. The 3D headrest tilts so I can find the perfect angle whether I'm working or taking a break. The entire backrest moves up or down to fit your height. Plus, the adjustable lumbar support is different from most chairs. It supports not just your lower back, but your sacrum too, which is where I normally felt the most discomfort after hours of sitting. You can also adjust the seat depth to get the perfect fit, and the latex memory foam cushion is insanely comfortable. Even after 12 plus hours of sitting in a day, it still feels supportive, not squished. The armrests are also fully adjustable for gaming, typing, or just leaning back, and it's so easy to tweak everything on the fly. The chair reclines way back, and this version even came with a built-in footrest, so if I need a quick break or I want to sit cross-legged for a while, I can do all that comfortably. So if you're like me and you also spend a huge chunk of your day sitting down, whether that's for work, hobby, or gaming, this chair is the one I'd recommend in a heartbeat. And for the price, especially with how customizable it is, it's an awesome value. Plus, Flexispot offers a 30-day risk-free trial and a 10-year warranty that even covers free part replacements. And if you're on a tighter budget, definitely check out their C5 chair too. It's a great option with all the essentials. And if you're quick, you can catch Flexispot's Brand Day sale between the 26th and 28th of May. Use the code BRANDDAY30 to get $30 off your purchase. You can take a look at their full range by clicking the link in the description below. Huge thanks again to Flexispot for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. So, to make sure I would get into art school this time, I worked my mind-numbing part-time job just enough to pay the bills, so that I could spend every free moment improving my skills. Luckily, we live in an age where learning is easier than ever before. YouTube is filled with incredible artists, all of them sharing their years of experience for free. Some of the ones who taught me the most were Marco Bucci, Cynics, Andrew Tischler, and Proco. But I learned pretty quickly that just watching tutorials doesn't make you better. You have to actually apply what you learn. My third lesson might seem very obvious, but for some reason, many aspiring artists, my younger self included, still sometimes forget it. Every hour of practice is an hour closer to mastery. To make sure I would get into art school this time, I was creating as much and as often as I could, filling sketchbook after sketchbook, doing pencil studies of anything that looked cool, and slowly getting back into digital art as well. I compiled everything into a new portfolio and applied again. And this time, I got in. To be clear, this wasn't some prestigious art academy. It was a program called Game Art, designed to prepare students for the video game industry, a career that seemed like a dream at the time. But unfortunately, I quickly realized that the course wasn't for me at all. Only about 2 hours a week were actually spent making art. The rest was programming, game design, or endless discussions about art rather than creating it. I was faced with a choice. Spend 4 years barely drawing, but walk away with a diploma that might land me a job which I might love, or spend those same 4 years working a crappy part-time job while making so much art that the work would speak for itself. Right as I was debating what to do, I got my very first commission. I had been posting my character drawings on Reddit when someone emailed me, asking if I could illustrate their 3 Dungeons & Dragons characters. At the time, I wasn't really comfortable with digital art yet, so I drew them in pencil and watercolor and snapped a photo and sent it their way. Looking back, I had no idea what I was doing, but I loved it, and I wanted more. The freedom of freelance felt great, and the idea that I was creating something that made people happy was incredibly rewarding. So I made up my mind. I quit art school so I could focus on building my own business instead. This might sound adventurous, even brave, but if I'm being honest, at the time I did not feel brave at all. I had quit 2 things 2 years in a row, one of which was the thing I had worked so hard to achieve. I felt like a screw-up and a coward who ran away from things just because they weren't a totally perfect fit. But somewhere along the way I learned my 4th lesson. The road to your dreams is a maze, not a highway. It twists and turns full of dead ends and detours. You'll have to backtrack, start over, and find new ways forward before you finally reach the exit. And I'm certain that if I didn't walk my path the way that I did, I would not be sitting right here, talking to all of you lovely people out there. And if any of you are struggling right now, finding your way, feeling lost, just try to welcome the twists and turns, and keep walking. You have no idea where you might end up, and it might just be the place you've been looking for all along. During that time when I was feeling completely lost in the maze, I started looking in all directions for ways to progress. After that first commission, it took me many months before landing the second one. And in those uncertain times in between, I tried figuring out where I wanted my creative path to lead. I started experimenting with different styles and materials. Abstract art had never been my thing, but using it as a tool to deal with feeling so lost helped me out in ways I couldn't have imagined. Getting back to the expression of self, instead of only sketching characters and landscapes, actually helped me find ways to make my illustrative art look more visually interesting too. I familiarized myself with ink and acrylics, feeling great about trying new things every day, but at the same time I actually felt worried that I was losing something. Every artist I know has at some point obsessed over finding their style. And during this time I felt especially lost because my style seemed all over the place. I thought I needed a signature look, something that would be instantly recognizable. But here's what I've learned. Your style is just the sum of everything you've ever created. It's not something you find, it's something that emerges. And it will keep evolving and shifting and changing as you continue to grow as an artist. Just look at the works of Picasso. This is a self-portrait he made when he was 15 years old. This one he made at 20 years old. This one at 25, 56, and this one when he was 90. My style definitely hasn't changed that dramatically, not yet at least, but looking at some of my older works, they barely resemble what I make now. And that's a good thing. If I had forced myself into a single style back then, I would never have grown the way that I have. So if you're struggling with finding your artistic identity, you should listen to lesson number 5. Finding your style is a journey, not a destination. The most important thing is to just keep creating. While all this experimenting was going on for me, I decided I also needed to focus on the technical side of things. To keep improving at drawing characters, I joined a weekly figure drawing group and a weekly portrait painting group. I had barely ever drawn from life, and I'd never touched oil paint before. But I threw myself in anyway, even if I looked like a fool, because I knew that every expert begins knowing absolutely nothing. And now I was making something almost every single day, every hour pulling me closer to mastery. Even quick sketches or rough 2-hour paintings stacked up, accelerating my learning exponentially. This was my first portrait from life, made in 2018, and I made this one 4 years later in 2022. Both were done in a little over 2 hours. Around the same time, I wanted to dive back into digital art too. If I really wanted to take on more commissions, that was going to be the best way. This was one of the first digital paintings I actually finished, the first of very, very many. Commissions slowly started trickling in, and after 3 more years of hard work, I was finally able to quit my day job and become a full-time artist. I mostly illustrate characters, with a few landscapes and portraits along the way. 2022 was an amazing year creatively. I was working my dream job full-time, with all the freedom in the world. And on the side, I started a YouTube channel where I could finally share the stories I truly cared about, the stories from my worldbuilding project. That same summer, my father bought a rundown house in Sweden, and me and my partner spent a few months there helping him fix it up, while I did commissions on my laptop and filmed videos in the forest. Life was good, things were going really well, but then things started to change. Slowly it became harder and harder for me to find new commissions, and I wasn't the only artist noticing it. Something was happening. Generative AI was happening. Before all that, I used to receive so many commission requests that I had to turn people down. But then it started dropping to 1 client every 2 weeks, then 1 client every month, then 1 client every 2 months. Suddenly, my career as a character artist started to seem a lot less certain. At that time, I was beginning to learn my 6th lesson. Art is uncertain, but that cannot allow us to give up. We should always find a way to keep going, to adapt to the new circumstances, no matter what. Thankfully, I still had a few regular clients and some savings to fall back on. I took every single job that I could, but in the end it still wasn't enough. In September of 2023, I became a father, and after those magical first weeks were over, I was faced with the hard truth. My failing art career would not be enough to support a family. By October, I needed to go back to my old part-time job just to keep the food on the table. But I made a promise to myself that I would never let that job become full-time, and I would always keep finding ways to make money with my creativity. I had done the interview for the job, gotten hired again, and I was planning my schedule when I uploaded a video to YouTube. At that moment, I had just reached 1,000 subscribers, a number I was incredibly proud of at the time. But a few months later, there would be over 50,000 of you watching. And now, 1.5 years later, that video has been seen by over 1 million people. The explosive success of that video, combined with all of your amazing comments, showed me a new path, one I had never even dreamed was possible: becoming a YouTuber. As much as I love illustrating characters for other people, my one true passion lies in telling my own stories, the ones that I came up with myself. Over the 10 years of building this world, I've made so many artworks and maps, written so many little stories, and if I could find a way to turn Tumiun into a career, that would be my ultimate dream come true. And thanks to my amazing Patreon supporters, YouTube members, and people who bought prints on my webshop, that dream is closer to a reality than ever before. If you'd also like to help me keep creating, consider visiting rixcreations.com to buy a high-quality print of one of my artworks, or this replica of the cartographer's map of the wild world, the one that I created in my very first video. Or if you don't have a lot to spare, you can also become a YouTube member for just $1 a month by clicking the join button below this video. That $1 helps out much more than you might know. Or if you're interested in something a little more unique, almost all of the original artworks you've seen in this video are for sale, except for the maps. If you see something you like, be sure to send an email to this email address right here. Thank you, and now let's get back to the video. There are so many potential obstacles blocking an artist's road to success. Fear of failure, laziness, distraction. I struggle with all of them, but the one I wrestle with the most is perfectionism. Where failure might make us afraid to start a work, perfectionism convinces us we should never finish it. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist. I can't tell you how many projects I've abandoned just because they didn't live up to the impossible standard in my head. I've spent hours tweaking tiny little details that no one else would even notice, and I've fallen into the trap of thinking that if I just put a couple more hours into a work, it will magically become perfect. But in art, perfection doesn't exist. It's an illusion, a trap we set for ourselves. It took me far too long to learn this. In fact, I'm still learning it every day. My 7th lesson to you is that a finished, imperfect work is worth much more than a perfect work you'll never finish. My previous video, where I reimagined my world's unoriginal elves, was supposed to be a quick bonus video. But weeks turned into months as I kept thinking of ways to make it perfect, hoping it would perform better if I just poured in more of my heart and soul. I fell into the same old trap. I hadn't learned my lesson yet. So from now on, I'm trying a different approach, uploading as often as I can, which means you shouldn't expect fully polished world-building deep dives every single time. Expect more laid-back videos like this one. This video, in fact, was a challenge to myself. Could I create something I was proud of in less than 4 weeks? As I'm sitting here filming, I'm actually not sure how long it will have taken me in the end. Probably a little bit longer since I got my very first sponsorship, and I'll need to film that too. But if I'm being completely honest, I did find a way to cheat. Because this video didn't take me just 4 or 5 weeks to make. It took me 25 years. Without a lifetime of experience, this video would not have been able to exist. Which brings me to lesson number 8. Everything we've made becomes a tool we can use. Which again might sound quite obvious, but I think it could be the key to making inspiring things without every project taking months or years to finish. And if we learn to apply it correctly, it allows us to build something rich and meaningful without always starting from scratch. A perfect example of this would be my latest project, the Cartographer's Tome of Tumiun, a guide to the walled world. It's a compendium of all the illustrations and stories I've created across a decade of world building. Over the years, I've amassed such a huge collection of sketches, maps, short stories, poems, far too many to turn them all into videos. Which is exactly why I want to create this book, so that I can share even more of my stories with you all. But to be able to do this, I'm gonna need your help. I'll be launching a Kickstarter campaign to gather the necessary funds to actually make this tome a reality. So if you'd like to have one of these on your bookshelf sometime in the future, you can follow the Kickstarter campaign by clicking the link in the description. This way you'll be notified when the Kickstarter campaign actually goes live. I'm very excited to be sharing more info with you all soon, so stay tuned and definitely follow that campaign by clicking the link down below. Thank you. Now, don't worry, you don't always need 10 or even 25 years to tell your story. Every artist is blessed with their own set of unique experience, their own voice to share. And if we learn to weave our personal stories into everything we create, their meaning grows exponentially deeper. It was while working on the first episode of Tales of Tumiun that I realized just how perfect filmmaking fit me. I had never really filmed anything before, but I fell in love immediately. It combined so many of my passions: visual art, storytelling, world building, map making, voice acting, cinematography, even a little bit of animation. All the scattered skills I had picked up over the years suddenly combined into one. Sometimes we artists need to pause and think, what makes my artistic voice distinct? What tools can I bring to this creation that no one else can? Because I believe that every single one of you watching has something unique to offer. But sadly, many artists often seem to forget this. Another great struggle of any creative person is the fear of not being original enough. We worry that our ideas have been done before, that our works echo someone else's. But here's the truth, nothing is 100% original, and that's okay. Your voice, your perspective, your lived experiences, those are the things no one else has. And I think that's where true originality comes from. Not from inventing things out of thin air, but by filtering the world around you through your own unique lens. Every single artist is influenced by something. Every great piece of work stands on the shoulders of everything that came before. My 9th lesson to you is this: art is a conversation. Your voice is what makes it new, so use it. Even Shakespeare borrowed and reworked existing stories. Tolkien did the same. The greatest painters studied the masters before forging their own styles. Creativity is a conversation across time, so don't be afraid to take inspiration, to remix, to borrow, build upon what others have made. But when you do, stay true to yourself, no matter what, because in the end it's your voice that makes it something truly unique. If you've watched this video and concluded that what I've done isn't something you can do, then you've missed the point. You don't have to spend 25 years practicing art. You just have to start. And I only really started taking art seriously about 7 or 8 years ago. And even if it does take longer than that for you, maybe this video is your sign to start today, because it's never too late. Every great journey starts with a single step. People love talking about talent as if it's some magical gift you're either born with or not, but I don't see talent that way. What people call talent is just persistence disguised as a gift. It's the willingness to keep going, to keep trying, even when you fail. It's a choice. Let this be my final lesson to you today. Talent is just loving something so much that you choose to keep doing it no matter what. I wasn't born with the ability to make art, but maybe I was born with an unconditional love for creativity. A love that pushed me to keep creating, come what may. But I still had to put in the thousands of hours to get where I am today. Your dreams aren't handed to you. You have to go out and grab them yourself. In a few minutes, this video will end and you will be faced with a choice. Do I click on the next video that looks interesting? Or do I grab my pencil or my pen or my guitar and create something? It's so easy to stay in the comfort of the familiar, but will it bring us happiness in the end? And just know that I am far from perfect in this regard. Every day I find myself distracted by things I don't actually care about. And every day I have to tell myself that I am the only one who can make the choice. YouTube doesn't decide, Netflix doesn't decide, TikTok doesn't decide. The choice is ours. Every single day we have a chance to bring an idea to life, to turn nothing into something. And what a beautiful chance that is. I believe there's nothing closer to magic in this world than art. It transcends the physical laws of our universe. It moves without friction, grows without consuming. In my fantasy world, the most skilled artists wield creativity as a force, shaping reality with the raw emotion and memories they pour into their works or performance. But here in our world, we witness that same magic every single day without even knowing it. Every time we tell a story or paint an image or sing a lullaby, we channel something greater than ourselves. It spreads beyond us, touching others in ways we cannot predict. Inspiration, unlike anything else, doesn't diminish when shared. It multiplies. One creation sparks 10 more, 10 100, 100 1,000, like a great snowball rolling down a hill, gathering more snow as it grows ever larger, reshaping the landscape in its wake. And even if you don't share your creations with the world, your art might still give you a reason to get up in the morning, a purpose that brings meaning to your life. We've all found ourselves asking, what's the meaning of life? But it's too big of a question. We should be asking ourselves, what am I going to do today to give my life meaning? For me, the answer is simple. I want to leave this world just a little bit more beautiful than I found it. I want to create stories, art, worlds that inspire others, so that maybe, just maybe, they will want to do the same. When I one day reach the end of my road, I want to make damn good sure that I pushed my snowball down the hill. And though I may never live to see how large it gets when it reaches the bottom, I will die happily knowing that it was rolling. So if you're struggling with your art, if you're wondering if it's even worth it, just know that it is. Keep telling stories, keep making things. The world needs them. But more importantly, you might need them. And who knows? Maybe one day it will be your snowball that starts an avalanche.